All right, guys. Tonight we're going to go down a little bit different path than we've done in the last 10 episodes. We all kind of, we were talking the pre-show. We all kind of like JFK, it sounds like. Wouldn't you say, Corey? or when?
Yeah.
And what do you think, Collin? Would you say that?
It's a good touchstone for most people. It's a big question mark in our history that most people think we have a very clear history on how the world works and how, you watch History Channel, you read your textbooks, you listen to you watch the news, you have there's a pretty consistent arc that makes sense and for most people that most people can glob onto, except for the JFK assassination. I mean, there's many others that most people are ignorant to, but that one is like a big, question mark that no one is satisfied with the answers that have been given, as far as I can tell. So I think it's a good touchstone.
Yeah, let's I've always wanted to have this conversation. I've been interested in it for probably 20 years, and I've been to Daily Plaza, I've been to the Texas Book Depository and looked at all this stuff. I've been on the X and looked back at the window. And I've always thought it was pretty cool. So let's start off with, do you think Lee Harvey Oswald killed John F. Kennedy? Corey, what do you think?
No. The stuff that I read and that kind of stuff, he wasn't. He wasn't the trigger guy. Didn't seem like he had that ability. Even going through MK Ultra and all that kind of stuff, I would say no.
Collin, what do you think?
Oswald was a part of the Civil Air Patrol that was started in Texas under D.H. Byrd, who is also the owner of the School Book Depository, of which that fateful shot supposedly came out of. He also, on record, took out the window of where that shot supposedly took place and had it framed in his house in Dallas.
Took the window out?
He took the window out and put it up as a trophy piece in his house. That's on record. You can look that up.
Let's look that up.
He is the cousin of Admiral Byrd, and he was referred to as Diehold Byrd in Congress. He was an oil man, Texas oil man.
So what is his name?
D.H. Byrd. I'm honestly not sure exactly what that stands for, but I just always refer to him as D.H. Byrd. B-Y-R-D. Congressman. Or Senator, I think. Yeah, Senator Byrd.
D.H. Byrd at JFK comes up.
Okay, just type in window. School Book Depository. He was the owner of it. And he got him that job there just I think a couple weeks before the assassination.
The D.H. Byrd JFK window likely refers to the 6th floor window on the Texas Book Depository in Dallas. Lee Harvey Oswald was believed to have fired upon the President John F. Kennedy in the motorcade. The window.
He displayed it in his Dallas mansion until his death in 1986. So there's some controversy on whether or not he removed the wrong window or whatever. It's weird. And he owned it. Admiral Byrd.
When I went to this Texas Book Depository, the window they said it was just as it was. It hadn't been altered. Which I have a hard time believing myself.
Okay. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying he owned the building on record. So I'm saying that part about him having the window, there are articles written about that. There's witnesses. Maybe it's all nonsense. I don't know. Maybe not. But here's the hard fact. He owned the building. He was also involved. It was either him
the property in the 1930s.
Yeah.
David Hardin Byrd.
David Hardin Byrd. Okay. I actually didn't know that. I never bothered to look at his name. This is all relatively new to me.
Hardlin. Wow, I'm dyslexic.
He was also a Grand Cyclops in the KKK, if I'm correct, possibly. Might look that up.
Okay, so after the university, yeah, he was the former of the Civil Air Patrol.
Yep.
1941.
And that was a major. I was in Sea Cadets, which is kind of like the Navy's version of Civil Air Patrol. I was in that for most of my high school career. Just I wanted to be in the military, and I didn't see anything weird, but I could see how, especially back in the Cold War, how this is a perfect recruitment ground for assets. Fresh, you know.
The thing I couldn't understand when I went to Tech School Book Depository, it came to light the last year, is the casings were too close to the shooting. When you see in the window, when you rack that bolt and you pull it back, it throws the casings 4, 5, 6 feet away. And in the heat of battle, you know, he's technically in battle, he's pulling those rounds and ripping them out. And you have one that's really far away, and you have two that are right next to him. It's like, how does that happen?
I think it's completely obvious at this point. And I mean, you're an expert when it comes to firearms and, you know, like shooting and that kind of stuff, which is really important. But I think we're well past the point of this was clearly not some lone gunman nut job operation. Well, I don't think anyone believes that.
Well, I think...
they basically have come out and admitted it. Bobby Kennedy has said he doesn't believe that. He said he knows the intelligence services were involved.
Well, here the thing I don't understand is he had to make that hard right when they came down onto the Daily Plaza. So they came in going northbound and they turned. Well, I don't know, but they came in on the top of the plaza and they made a hard right, like a really stupid, like back up hard right to make that turn with the limo. And when you stand on the X and you look back up at the window, it is like a really uncomfortable position to make the shot from.
Yeah, I think that case has been pretty well, like the ballistics case of this has been very well documented how insane that story is. It makes no sense.
Well, I think I watched a documentary back in mid-20s. Or 2013. The documentary came out in 2013. It's called Smoking Gun. Let me see if I can bring that up. The Smoking Gun is... Yeah, it's called JFK, The Smoking Gun. And they did a ballistics report on it, and this guy wrote a book. He was a veteran police detective from Australia. And they made the documentary, and he took this book information that someone already run the ballistics on it, and it made a lot of sense. I have since gone out and tried to replicate, find those bullet sizes when we were out on the range, and his theory was that there was and it makes sense after having been to the thing, is that Oswald got off 2 shots, and that the third shot came from the limousine behind. There was a Secret Service protection. 2 things that don't make sense is the lead car in front of the president was a cop car, and then you have the presidential limousine, and then there's all his entourage is behind him. So I think that was all set up. I think that was all set up by the CIA, and but I think the ability for them to take that, I forget how to pronounce the name, but that 6.5 rifle from the Swedish rifle, and he racks it, and it's a really dumb bullet. It's like a blunt. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. But if you look at the coroner's report, the neck injury, and then you look at the injury report on the governor that was sitting in front of him, because he was sitting in front and low. They had these seats that folded in from the sides, normally was an open floorboard, and so the governor was sitting. If you look in the video, he's literally sitting down low, his shoulders below. So that whole bullshit about the smoking, the magic bullet flying, if you look at it, it goes down through his neck, and then it goes through the back shoulder blade of the governor, and then it hits his leg. There was a bruise on his leg too. And if you look
Go ahead, sorry.
If you look at it, he turns at the last minute, and it lines up when you turn everything and line it all up, because he's turning to see what the hell's going on over his shoulder. Or I think he goes like this. When he goes like that, then it lines up, boom, boom, down, and hits his leg. And they actually found the bullet in the bottom of the limo. But I think the first shot missed and went over his head and hit the. They said you can see in the concrete still that where the shot hit the curb. And then, because I found that where the shot hit the curb and took a chunk of concrete out of it. And I think the second shot went down from Oswald, went down through his neck, and then went through the governor and ended up in the floorboard. And I think if you look at the spacing of the shots, that third shot came from that limousine in the back. And I think what happened is, it makes a lot of sense, because the simplest solution is always is that there was another rifle on the thing, and they registered there was witnesses that registered multiple shots. And then I got to thinking about seeing the videos from the shooting in Las Vegas, when you could hear the echoes. So if some people reported 5 shots, some people reported only 3, but you're also getting the echoes off the buildings. So then I started thinking about that, and then I also thought about, what if 2 rounds shot at the same time, they stacked the rounds on top of each other, you'd have one report. But I think that third shot, that kill shot, because if you look, it comes in the back here in the base of the head, and it comes out the front over here. So if you take that line and you draw it back, it goes to the car behind them. And they there was a report from the CIA, from the Secret Service, that gun was present. They had introduced in the early 60s the AR-15, the infamous AR-15, and that 55 grain bullet that they fired at that time was a where'd Collin go? There he is. It was a frangible ammunition, and the hole in the back of his head, and I've seen this on pumpkins and stuff, not that that's necessarily the same tensile strength as you know, your skull, but the bullet goes in. The hole in the back of his head was 6 millimeters, and when a 5.56 round goes through and makes a hole in like a pumpkin, I measured it on a pumpkin, not that that makes a 6 millimeter hole. The rifle that Oswald was shooting was a 6.5 millimeter casing, and we have modern guns that fire 6.5, you know, the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 6.5 PRC, but they're way more powerful. But that made a 7 millimeter hole when we measured it on a pumpkin, and that hole in the back of his neck measured out at 7 millimeters, and the exit measured out at 7 millimeters. So as a bullet that first goes in at 7 comes out at 7, because it's a round designed for battle. It's not designed to frange, it's designed to maim, like a military round is. It does an amazing thing. It flies through all these people and runs out of inertia and ends up in the floorboard. But then the next shot goes in the back of his head and boom, pops the head, the skull. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. So to me, that is just extra and more evidence to show that this was not the original story doesn't add up. So you're correct about that. Everything you just said.
So, and then anyone who's been around the government, I think there was a conspiracy to kill the president that day.
I have 2 things to show you guys whenever you're ready. Go ahead.
So let me say this. I do think there was a conspiracy to kill the president that day from the CIA. I just think the kill shot was an accident. I think the CIA, and they have video footage from a different angle, and I can't bring it up right now, But the guy, you see him come up out of the floorboard with that rifle, and then the car lurches, and you see him go down. So he goes down like that, and it's like, well, and you could see in the video, he does have his finger on the trigger. So when the car lurches and goes down, boom, you pull the trigger, and then so happens the guy in front of you is the President of the United States, and boom, you blow his head off. And then it's not beyond possibility to me that the other thing that didn't make any sense is why are the casings inside the building? If you saw a shooting position and you saw the way that ejected the right rounds, how come none of the casings went out the window? And then you have two casings stacked next to each other, and one way the hell off, like 4 or 5 feet away.
Look, this is kind of my whole thing with this whole art. Like, I love that you went through all this stuff, but the problem is, it's like they have the ability to tamper with the evidence and the crime scene so much at this point that they can make anything look like anything at this point. So it's like, and the way you described it is like, it basically perfectly outlines how their story is complete fabrication.
Bullshit.
There's no way that happened. No way. Okay. And I think we're way beyond that point of everyone understand. I mean, I talk to most people not most people. When I talk to people and like, you think the government had an involvement in JFK assassination? I have yet to meet anyone that says no. I've never met that person. So I think we're well beyond that point. I'm trying to get to the next level of why and how.
Well, see, the problem I have is I always assumed the conspiracy was real. I just wanted to know who actually pulled the trigger and killed him.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That was the ballistics. The ballistics led me down the path. And then I watched that smoking gun video. And I tried to understand how that all worked.
How do you know you caught all the ballistics?
Well, I just caught...
That's the story they show you, right? It's like, here's where the bullet hit, here's where the casings were, believe our story, this is how it works. You know, it's like your entire premise is based off of what's being fed out.
But my premise...
And even that doesn't make any sense, right? It's a stupid story, but...
Well...
Go ahead.
My premise was based off of the coroner's report. You know, so...
And there's a whole saga with that. That guy disappeared. You know?
I understand. And then they weren't supposed to take him out of Texas, and they basically strong-armed the medical examiner to release the body. And so he, like, hours after he was dead, he was on a plane flying back to Washington.
There's people talking about 2 bodies and all this stuff. I mean, the whole thing is so obscured in the origination of evidence. We can't tell. And they do this on purpose. It's like, okay, you don't just kill the king and then just go just have a clean-cut assassination story, muddy the waters, make everything confusing so no one knows what happens, but everyone knows somebody whacked this guy. You know, that was really that was what that thing was really about. That was a gangland hit to make everyone know, you F around, you're going to get a bullet to your... Like, we will kill the president.
Well, the other thing I thought was interesting is when Lee Harvey said he didn't kill the president. He never said he didn't shoot him, but he said that he didn't kill him.
Corey, I've been hogging your airtime, so you have next comment. I'll be quiet. Sorry.
Well,
I like hearing you guys going back and forth because you guys are trying to talk out what each person's perspective is, right? According to what you've seen, read, heard, all that kind of stuff. And you're trying to get the viewpoints and see where they match and where they don't. And it's hard because you're talking about an ability of a government entity to write things. And how do you figure out what is true and what's not? And I think that's kind of both of your guys' delineation on this whole thing is Cody, you read the coroner's report and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, okay, what is true and what's not? You know, coming in with a 6.5 and it comes out as a 7 mil out the head. And so there's all these things that are happening, right? And that happened there at that time. And we all can agree that Lee Harvey Oswald, um, did he pull the trigger and hit the president, or did he pull the trigger and miss the president a couple of times? All that kind of stuff, right? He even said that he didn't do it, didn't kill
Yeah.
the president, right? So we can kind of take that off the table. But yet, when you look at this whole thing, for a president, a sitting president, to be assassinated in the United States, that takes a lot. Yet you also have a history of clandestine and all that kind of stuff that has overthrown many governments, right?
Well, but
Whatever purpose.
they also did
Yeah.
it to Reagan. They tried to kill him. Sirhan. They got pretty damn close to killing Reagan. He actually got hit by the bullet. So
Did Trump. Trump got hit by the bullet too.
And here's all I would say about the Trump thing, and is that if you wanted to do that in the WWE, it's not hard to do that Nick Your Ear thing. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying that has to be a possibility out there. Like, you have to entertain that as that was another kayfabe deal. And I don't...
What is kayfabe?
Yeah, basically just made up. Like, it's professional wrestling. And there's been a lot of professional wrestling. When you really start watching politics, you're like, what of anything is real anymore? And I'm not saying...
Yeah, my watch picked that up and said it's it says like genuine, unreal, or staged kayfabe. All right, cool. We know that now.
I have two things to show you guys that I think might bring some reference to this. One's very short and one's a little bit longer, but we can interrupt and stop it anytime you want if you guys don't think it's interesting. One is Judge Napolitano talking with Jeffrey Sachs about his conversation with Trump about this subject.
Okay, go for it.
And that dude's a Democrat, like, historically.
We lost. He'll come back, right?
Yeah, he'll come back on. And he was saying that was a Democrat. Okay. That means that there are people on both sides, all sides, that are questioning what's going on and what's happening and how is this all related and how is this all, what is the meaning behind this?
You should.
That's tough.
I got one more, and this just came, but if you guys have some comments to make about that, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I heard a conversation once that went along the same lines, but it was from Glenn Beck when he said he was interviewing George Bush, and he was saying that, there's so much control from the deep state that basically no president can really run the country anymore. And the more I look at it, and after Obama was in there and all that other crap, I really believe that. The deep state, it's like J. Edgar Hoover had all those files of crap on everyone, and he used it to stay in power for, 30, 40 years, something like that. And it doesn't surprise me that they wouldn't have their deep, dark file.
Right. So
that's true.
Right, but that's a touchstone for like where we are right now. Like, okay, this is like in live time. I mean, that happened about 3 years ago, I think, 3 or 4 years ago.
What?
The conversation between the judge and Trump, that happened during his first presidency, so that was probably early on, so 5-6 years ago, something like that. So yeah, that's not the surprise, but that's just to validate, like, because your whole point with the ballistics argument, Cody, is like, this is what I'm trying to get at. I'm not saying that your whole investigation into that is meaningless. I'm saying it's validated. And what's the validation? Is that something is wrong. They lied. This isn't adding up. This isn't possible. So now the next step to take from where I'm sitting is, what's the backstory, who, how, where, and why, right?
Okay.
Because you've been so concentrated on the physical elements of this, because that's how your mind operates, because you're really good at that. And it's very valuable for this, but it doesn't tell the deeper story. And my question is, does that matter in this story, or is it just that they lied and we just leave it at that? Like, that's what I'm confused, because we've been talking about this for years.
Well, what is interesting is the skepticism over JFK and all my research and wanting to understand it. When I saw Jeffrey Epstein get killed, instantaneously I'm like, oh yeah, this is a hit. There's no... Yes. I don't care what the government says. Oh yeah, there happened to be every night at midnight the camera goes off for a few minutes because it's an old system. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you killed him. You made it look like an accident.
I told my dad when he was first arrested, I'm like, this guy's going to be dead in like a matter of like in the next month. If this is anything close to real, what they're saying, they will kill him. And literally a few days later, he was dead. I'm like, and this is before I knew any of this stuff really in depth. I'm just going common sense. I'm like, well, if this really is the case, they can't let him stay alive. So the question is, what did JFK know? What was he about to do? What was the whole point of this?
Well, what did he also screw up for the CIA? The CIA had
there's countless examples, but there is a stream that I find very interesting, and it goes back to Byrd. And if you go and look at Admiral Byrd, who I believe was his cousin. I don't think he was like a brother. I think it was his cousin. You will have some pattern recognition with this, Cody, if you look his name up real quick.
What's his name?
Admiral Byrd.
Byrd. B-Y-R-D.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. I'd like Cody to look this one up because he has some background in this.
So for
How do you
me,
spell Admiral? I'm drawing a blank.
A-D-M-I-R-A-L.
A-B?
A-D.
A-D.
A-D-M-I-R-A-L.
Admiral Byrd. Okay. Well, there's your ice. Let's see what it is. Antarctica.
Operation High Jump.
Oh, I've read about that before.
Yep.
Mysterious Arctic base.
People have reported on that too. It's come out in the last couple of years.
So there's been
What does it do?
Well, it was Antarctica, right? Not the Arctic, right?
Yeah, Antarctica.
Okay. So we've been having this legend of UFOs being floated around in the halls of Congress. Well, when I say, I mean that in a technical sense. That when intelligence
How do you have a technical legend?
When you're working in intelligence, you build a legend and a storyline for the population to grab onto, so that you can lead them down the road like a
legend, okay.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like a technical legend. Because do you think like anything that we know regarding that subject of what they tell us is the truth? Maybe elements of it, because the best truths are shrouded in lies, but
this came from a group of people that in 1945 convinced the whole state of New Mexico that the nuclear bomb dropping was actually an army depot blowing up. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about Netflix and chill. Like, that's the population. I mean, most people have no cognitive awareness or ability, so it's very easy to spin up universal storylines. Well, it was until the internet, and then a bunch of pirates like us started going, no, I don't think so. No, something's wrong here. And then you get labeled as a conspiracy theorist for questioning the storyline. And they have people, they have whole department buildings just set up to design the storylines. It's called Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood got started out of the U.S. military. That's where the initial funding came from. And what's our common reference point? Like in the old days, before we had religion, you had tribal stories. People would have, you tell your stories and they get passed on. And that's your common touchstone. And then once you got religion and empires and kingdoms involved, then you were able to expand storylines out for people to glob onto. This is why people got very, like, why a bunch of liberals and commies got anti-religious, because they just were like, well, this is all just meant to control us. You know, they're not real. They've lied to us. It's like, it's all out of the papacy. It's all out of this or that. It's all a control grid structure. Well, that never stopped. I mean, that's, to me, that's like, that's ancient history. If you go back and look at the old priest classes, I mean, that's all they did was, there's a great movie called Apocalypto, the Mel Gibson movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you got the priests up on the pyramid and they're like tearing people's hearts out. And they're like, oh, the sun's about to go away. And if we don't give the right sacrifice, the sun won't come back. And they had their, because of their knowledge, they knew when the sun was going to have an eclipse. And it freaked everyone out. And then they go, oh, we were, you clearly are the mediators between us and the gods. You know, and Christ said, my people die for lack of knowledge. You know, that's, okay. I mean, that's a part of what I'm trying to get at. And this UFO thing is like another version of the sun's going to go dark. And unless you sacrifice to us, you're not going to, the sun's not going to come back and the fields won't grow.
Yeah.
So you don't think...
Or climate change is the same thing. You know?
You don't think the aliens landed in Roswell?
I think the story is way more complicated, and I think it directly ties to the JFK assassination, because I think he was about to disclose something about that to the Russians. That's honestly, like, if I'm going to just throw it out there, that's what I think. And I can back up the reasoning for that if you want, but it's rather complicated.
Okay.
But there is a backing for that. Do you want me to? Or, like, I don't know, because I've been talking a lot. Do you guys want to throw something back, or...
Well, I haven't really heard that part before, where he was going to share something with the Russians about what that whole thing was.
If you talk for a second, I will pull this video up. This was on Charlie Rose with Henry Kissinger.
I think for a long time I thought that the UFO landing in Roswell had a lot to do with remember that broadcast they did back in the 30s with the War of the Worlds broadcast?
Yeah.
Yep.
So there was one theory that made a lot of sense about that, and it came out of that book. Was it the Area 51 book? Hold on. Let me go get it real quick. I'll be right back.
Well, the whole thing with ritual sacrifice and all that kind of stuff, that goes back to the beginning, you know, humanity and that kind of stuff. Man trying to control things. Man trying, if I do this, kind of like our favorite football team, hey, if I wear this nasty, ugly smelling socks or whatever else, the team's going to win. If I don't, they always lose, right? We kind of find some kind of selling point to ourselves and to other people. Hey, this is what we got to do in order to win, to overcome. Baal, you did your ritual sacrifices and all that kind of stuff. And all these things, Israel, they had their sacrifices and all these things in order to control things, control the gods, control the weather, control everything so that you can have the best outcome possible. And so that concept has been gone down even today, because we are always trying to control things. Yet, crazy thing is, we're really not in control for the most part. Yet, I think there are some people groups, whatever it is, highly intelligent, whatever they are, they can spin things and control things to a certain point, and they're good at it. They're great at it. And we are seeing the outcomes of that. Will we know all the ins and out? Time will tell. But
Well, I'm about
Collin's
to.
got it all up and running.
Yeah,
Up and
no,
running, right?
I'm trying to accelerate timelines here, so let's roll. Real quick, this is Mikhail Gorbachev, just so everyone understands.
So that thing on
remember
the
that.
top of his head,
Yep.
yeah, telltale
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah, I grew up in the
Would
80s.
you
I
help
don't know
us?
So he's basically saying,
what are we talking about here?
We're attacked.
Oh,
I said,
All right.
You gave a dinner for us.
I'll leave
And
it
they
at
were-
that. There's more to it, but that's hang on.
so you got the gist, given the
There
gist
is
out of
so
that.
much more backstory to this that I can't get into right now because it just would suck all the time out of this. But look,
dude, so
basically,
here's my theory.
okay.
Okay, so I read this book. Here, I have it. I actually read the book.
Yeah,
And-
Annie Jacobson. Yeah, no, I've read it.
And she said that she talked to a scientist out at out at Area 51, who explained that. So you had the World of Worlds. She explains this in there, and that there was this airplane. I'll pull out a picture of it right now. Let's see if I can. It's called the Horton Flying Wing.
Yeah, Nazi design
And
out of Operation Paperclip. Yeah.
no, it was before Operation Paperclip.
Well, maybe, but I'm saying they're
Operation
the ones.
Paperclip didn't happen until 1945.
I understand. I'm saying they got the Nazis from before. What was Operation Paperclip? They got Nazis from Germany that were designing stuff like this.
But the Horton brothers designed this plane.
They designed this one, but the flying wing was, as far as I can
Designed
tell, originated from Nazi Germany, right?
Yes, that's what I'm not. Yeah. Hold
Okay, that's what I was just saying. So, go ahead.
So the Horton,
on. Here, I'll share this. What does that plane look like? See the plane there?
yeah.
Yeah, our monowing stealth bomber designs.
Yeah, so it looks like a B-2 bomber. Low observable aircraft. So what happened was, and I'll put that down. Let me get another. I had another. So you got the Horton ring right here. Yeah, oh, that's. Let's see if it goes. See, look at it. It's big old wing like that.
Yeah, and they had it made out of like plywood mostly.
Yeah, made out of wood. So it and cloth. So all this stuff that doesn't reflect radar real well.
Yeah, they built like, I don't know, they only found like a couple models.
So the theory that she proposed, and I started asking people out there, what do you have in the area? So it didn't crash. It actually, let me bring that up too. It crashed in this small town called Corona, New Mexico, which is actually like 100 and something miles to the north, like 114 miles to the north of Roswell. And the only reason they went to Roswell is because it was Roswell Army Air Base at the time. It was in July of 1947. And let me get the map up here so you can see this. Here, I'm gonna share this. See right here. So there's Corona. You got this road right here. Lincoln. This is all in Lincoln County. And then so you got Roswell down here. So look at how far it's like 70, 80, 100 miles.
So you're saying that was the UFO retrieval?
So look at what's in line with it.
Yeah,
right
sure.
here.
No, yeah, I mean it's a freaking who's who of.
So the theory that she proposed, which I've looked into, and then I went out to the crash site out there off of that road because we were doing a windmill project up there, pouring windmill bases, and we went and looked at it, or pedestals. We were pouring windmill pedestals. Is that when you have an aircraft that it looks like nothing else, and even when they were flying the B-2 bomber out of Edwards Air Force Base in They were also flying it out of Area 51, coincidentally. It looks like a UFO.
But look, I get that argument, but isn't the trench like crazy long of the crash site? Yeah, so it had to have been
there's
something
two crash.
under. Go ahead.
There's two sites. You have this long site. It looks like something like a wing or something dug into it. It's about 4 or 5 feet wide and about 4 or 5 feet deep, and it's a scar on the earth. And then about another 10 miles down the road, there's another 10, 20 miles. Yeah, I think it was like 10 miles down the road. There's a crash where it hit the ground. And then there was this other guy that the Nazis happened to get a hold of, Dr. Mengele. You ever heard of him? Collin, you ever heard of Dr. Mengele?
Yes, I've heard of Dr. Mengele.
When he was doing experiments with like twins and and he found out that there was this thing you could do to bodies where you could take them into high altitudes and they would blow their eyes up and all this stuff, do rapid decompression of people at high altitude. And so the theory that makes sense to me is that, one, you got the Trinity site there, so they flew this low observable aircraft over the Trinity site. And then it crashed because there was a thunder and lightning storm that night. Crashed, got caught up in that, crashed off into the desert. And then they threw bodies out in the ground that were young children that had been experimented on.
So,
eyes real big.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on to something that's very important with this, and that is, we used to have a very low tolerance for human experimentation in this country. I would say, like, before the 60s. Today, now everything goes. Like, no one cares. We're openly calling for our sons to get their genitals cut off and, do horrible things. Like, we're literally calling for open castration.
Am I the only one that thinks that if you want to castrate your children, one, that's a horrible thing, but two, doesn't that kind of resolve the problem of your flawed theology, like reproducing?
Long term, yes, but the problem is they may kill us all at the same time because they're that insane. So,
Corey, I'm sorry, we're like bull-guiding you. What is your take
I
on
agree.
This?
Go for it, Corey.
So I haven't heard about these two accounts and stuff like that you guys are talking about, right? And Collin, you're probably going to go deeper within it. Yet the Gorbachev and what he was saying about being, if we got attacked by outer space or whatever it is, what does that really, really mean? And what does that
Can I
really
add one little
connect to?
caveat to that little point?
Yeah.
No.
Is that Reagan was briefed about, and this is, you can look this up. He was briefed about, and I'm not saying I believe this. I'm saying this is what's out on the record, that he was briefed about craft out on the rings of Saturn. And he was shown like images of these things, and basically he believed that they were real. Now, I don't know if they're real or not. Like, it's easy to psyop the population today. It sure as hell is easy to psyop an American president when you understand their information flows. Like, so I'm not saying I believe that's what happened, but that happened before this interview. And Colin Powell famously said that one of his biggest jobs was to manage Reagan's speeches and to keep the UFO talk out of the speeches. And he got it through a couple of times because he was speaking extemporaneously and just talking. But whenever he was doing a scripted speech, Colin Powell always pulled that stuff out. And he said that in his book that he wrote before he died. So it doesn't mean that that's real. It means that there's a UFO game being played at the highest levels of governance. That's what that means. It doesn't mean that we know what it is.
And it scared the president.
it scared the president enough to go, and that's what that talk was about, is what it seems like, is that he thought it was real, or he didn't, or whatever. He was trying to suss out whether or not Gorbachev had information about that too, because the Russians got telescopes and spacecraft supposedly. So it's like, it's our only peer power that you can talk to be like, hey, are you seeing what we're seeing here? Or
And
am
their
I
space,
just being messed with, you know?
their space program was actually better than ours at that time too.
Well, yeah, according to,
Not
you
in
know,
the 80s, but
I mean,
50s.
the whole Sputnik thing to me was also, it's a great psyop to allocate massive amounts of funding into black projects. Look, the Russians have done this. We got to do everything possible to catch up. So no number is out of question.
But here it is, you know, a scared president, right?
Right.
Talks to a Cold War enemy, now they're friends, and they go down to a fireside, speak, and it's over this. And would you back us if we are attacked, right?
Yeah.
And Gorbachev is like, yeah, definitely. I said, wait a minute, you're not pausing. You're not
that's a
thinking that
part of
this
it.
guy is crazy.
To me, we don't know the context. Like, all we know is that clip. That's the only evidence that I've ever seen of that conversation ever happening. So you can extrapolate only from that clip. But the conversation happened, and I love how they pivoted to Kissinger, like right before, because that was the live shot. And Kissinger was in the room. Charlie Rose is there. And he's like, and he didn't have to say that. Gorbachev did not have to throw that in there. Why would you say that? That was what was so weird about that whole thing with me. You could have easily said, no, we got together and we were like, you know, if the world was in trouble or something, we would team up together and we'd help save it, or whatever. You could say it any other way. Why would you frame it around that? It's just very strange. And it's just one more piece of evidence to plug into the equation. And this all goes back to, I mean, I know we started talking about the JFK assassination, but...
So what is the link? What is the link here?
The link is Admiral Byrd. Were you able to look him up?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Operation High Jump, because this ties into what you just described about Roswell. Operation High Jump. There's a legend, and I don't know if it's real or not, that basically, look, you know Tim Kennedy?
Met him once.
He lives actually just right up the road from me, and he was the host of Nazi Hunters.
That was a pretty cool show.
He's pretty famous on the internet right now. He's like a former Navy SEAL guy or whatever.
No, he was a Green Beret.
Green Beret, sorry, whatever. I just anyone that
Which is
starts
better than
going
Navy
Hollywood. Here, you look up Admiral Byrd real quick. I got to take this real quick. 1 second. You look up Admiral Byrd and Admiral Byrd, and
I got Burl.
No, I did. Sorry, my bad. I'll be right back.
Operation High Jump. So now that the riffraff is gone, Corey, what is your thoughts?
Well, I have, just more thoughts, more questions, right, that haven't been answered. And if the whole assassination was pivoting back to JFK was going to he's going to declassify this whole thing, and it's something that Powell kept him from talking about, the Reagan from talking about, and probably other presidents too, and that kind of stuff, that there was something serious happen, right? And why was it important for JFK to go down that road? Why was it important for those who want to protect whatever happened there so badly that the only way they thought would keep this under wraps was, hey, we're going to assassinate this guy. He's the first second sitting president to be assassinated. And that goes back to third. Um, we have the famous one with Booth killing Abraham Lincoln, and I can't remember the other one. Who was the other one?
There's been several presidents that have been killed.
Um, when you go back to the Civil War, you had the Confederates, and there's a book, I'm gonna have to send it to you guys that was reading, and it was talking about how the during the Civil War, the South developed a great, huge plan of how to subvert and take over,
There's
get
been 4 presidents that have been assassinated.
and how the detail and stuff like that they were able to do and politically, and also they utilize newspapers. They would actually buy newspapers and they would print their own agenda, just kind of like what was happening the last, 40, 50 years with these different news agencies, right? They're government run. And so the Confederates built their own Confederate run newspapers, and they were running all that kind of stuff during the Civil War. I mean, I was like, these
Yep.
guys are genius.
Yep. No, I mean,
I mean,
That book I
super,
told you about
yeah,
the Rangers and forget the name
yeah.
of that.
It was super genius. If sat down and thought about it, these guys were absolutely diabolically geniuses what they came up with and stuff. And so taking that and moving that forward, these similar concepts have been used over and over again. It appears.
yes.
Yeah.
And where did that stuff originate? I don't remember if the book talked about that or where did these guys get the origination of that. But it was just genius.
So, real quick,
So,
go ahead.
real quick
Sorry.
here,
Yep. Go for it.
so it says U.S. presidents. There's been 4 assassinations, one attempt, one failed attempt. So you have Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, William McKinley, John F. Kennedy, and Ronald Reagan is the first one that broke because there was like a link every so many years. There was an assassination. So like, yeah. So 1865 was Abraham Lincoln. 1881, right? Was Garfield. 1901 was McKinley. 1963 was Kennedy. 1981 was Ronald Reagan. So do you see there's like a turning
Pattern.
there, a pattern.
So,
So they say that Reagan broke the curse.
do you want to go down that road, or do you want me to finish off on Admiral Byrd real quick?
Let's finish off Bird because
All right. So I'm going to just describe Operation High Jump here. And I just looked it up, so I'm speaking from, okay.
Let's get high on high jump, man.
So it was basically an expedition that he was commissioned to go and explore the Antarctic. 1946 through 1947, it was a massive Navy expedition. August 26, 1946 to late February 1947, and involved 4,700 personnel, 70 ships, including 13 Task Force 68, 33 aircraft, and it was the largest Antarctic expedition ever, to this day that we know of, ever conducted.
So it's Task Force 68, right?
Yep.
They had
The
a task
expedition,
force,
sorry, go ahead.
It was also called Task Force. The naval definition was Task Force 68.
Yes. Task Force 68, including the flagship USS Mount Olympus, icebreakers, submarines, seaplane tenders, an aircraft carrier, destroyers, tankers, helicopters, and it was like a full-on military, like naval brigade being sent down there. And there is an article written in one of the Argentinian newspapers, that's why I brought up the Nazi hunter element. Because if you haven't seen Nazi Hunters, you should go watch it. It was a History Channel thing, I believe, right? Or Discovery Channel.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, and it was basically these guys went down to Argentina and South America, and they were...
hold on. It was called Hunting Hitler.
Hunting Hitler, you're right.
Yeah.
And they literally went to these whole villages, and they've got their grandfathers, like, war medals up there, and then blonde hair, blue-eyed people running all over the place. It's like, literally it proved... like visually that you could see that there was a rat line from Nazi Germany down to South America.
They even showed how they were doing it with the the Catholic popes and stuff were involved in it too.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, Pope John Paul II helped facilitate, and the Jesuits were heavily involved in this.
Yeah.
And there's a document that just came out from Grassley literally a few months ago, and it was a request from the new president, to give all documentation over to the United States about the rat lines down to South America. You can look this up. It's on the Senate website. It's an official document, and the Argentinian, what's his name? He's the guy with the chainsaw. You know what I mean?
What was this? I missed it.
Chuck Grassley asked for documentation regarding the
chainsaw
rat lines. Yeah, the rat lines.
I heard all that. It was like the chainsaw thing. I was like reading, and I'm like, what? Chainsaw?
No, the president of Argentina. I forgot his name. Milei. President Milei.
Yeah, he gave Elon Musk the chainsaw.
Yeah. It's like, afuera. Like, you just cutting stuff out.
Which makes you wonder how he got that thing on an aircraft.
He's a president.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, that's not the question here, Cody. How do you? There's plenty of ways.
Did he bring it from Argentina, or did he buy it when he got
There's
there?
chainsaws in Argentina, Cody. Like, I don't know.
But did he
Who
bring
knows?
that chainsaw with him?
It's called private planes. Who knows? Like, they don't check anything on private planes.
You never thought about how he got the chainsaw into the United States?
No. What are you? Are you high? Like, stop. What are you talking about? That is not the question. We're talking about aliens right now, not chainsaw smuggling.
On private planes, you can bring anything.
Yes.
But it's the commercial planes.
Are you serious?
If you bring firearms or stuff like that, then you get, when you get checked, they throw you in prison. Yep.
I just remember
John Maxwell has a story on that. He got a gun from somebody from another country. He was flying private. And then he went to switch to commercial, and he still had it on him. He goes, if it wasn't for a couple people that are lawyers. But here we go. Dispel that one.
Well, I'm just saying that when I lived in Alaska, they had this big, long thing of
You're
stuff
a
you can't take
peasant.
on
Like, you don't have rights. Like, you're a slave. Like, just embrace.
No,
like,
they had
we're
this
talking
big,
about
long
presidents.
display case, and in that display case was stuff you can't bring on an aircraft for all the Alaskans. And there was a chainsaw.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't.
They had a chainsaw in there. They had a weed whacker, a Coleman lantern.
All right,
all the
that's
stuff
pretty
they
funny.
They had confiscated that you can't bring on an aircraft, so they confiscated and showed it in this display box.
Fair enough. I understand what you're saying. That's pretty funny. I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, you walk into the Anchorage airport, and they have a display box of stuff you can't take on the airplane. And there's a chainsaw in there, and then my mind went on a crazy rampage. It's like, well, how did he get the chainsaw here if you can't fly with it?
So I'm just going to cut to the straight of this, just because this is taking too long. There is a lot of evidence that the Nazis ran down to Antarctica with their U-boat operation and had rat lines down south. And that's why they were able to set up bases down in the south, and to move up through South America, along with the rat lines down through the north with the CIA. And Annie Jacobson is a limited hangout operative, is not to be trusted. However, I recommend...
Jacobson?
Annie Jacobson is not to be trusted at all. However, I highly recommend reading her books because there's a lot of the story that's fleshed out. They can only hide so much. And the Operation Paperclip, the UFO thing, the UFO book, Kill, Hide, Vanish, I think is the other one. There's a bunch. DARPA, she does one on DARPA. They're
The one that she did on Matt v. Saga was pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's Hide, Kill, Vanish, I think is the name of it. And they are fantastic books in terms of it gives you like a story with some mystery in it, but it's all verified. It's good data. It's good information, but it's a limited hangout. She doesn't take it to the next level. So Chuck Grassley just established a real connection that there was a rat line going from the United States down to Argentina to funnel in expat Nazis fleeing Germany to repatriate and resettle down in Argentina. So that's now on the record, 100% that happened. And it was hundreds of thousands. And if you go down there and you look at Hunting for Hitler, what was the name of the show? Hunting Hitler.
Well, and when you read Tim Kennedy's book, he says it was never really about finding if Hitler was down there. It was trying to uncover the fact that they stopped the fourth season because they had taken it to a degree where they were showing where the United States was hiding Nazis in the United States.
And this whole thing go ahead, sorry.
No, go for it.
I'm just going to try to cut straight to it. That the Nazis were developing advanced technology. They were working, and there's an article out of Argentina. You can look it up. I'm not going to look it up right now, but it was an Argentinian newspaper, and it's the last episode before they were kicked out. And I've talked to you about this multiple times, Cody, about that island. That was the last episode, and then Tim Kennedy said, no, we couldn't go and look into this because the government basically called us off, said we couldn't do it.
Oh yeah, the island. Where they had the island where they were doing the nuclear weapons stuff on it.
Nuclear weapons. There's an article on the record in Argentina that Juan Perot, the president of Argentina, was working with a Nazi scientist down there, and the guy was claiming that he had developed cold fusion. Okay? So cold fusion, and you hear a lot of talk of these micronuclear plants that they're about to push out across the country.
Yeah, they were talking about that in Sean Ryan, Yeah, the small nuclear,
basically using fusion plasma power to create 0-point energy, very low, very low risk, pretty safe, basically unlimited energy. What else is going to power these, what we call UFOs, other than something like that? And what if John was about to start sharing information with the Russians because it's like, hey, there's a bunch of stuff flying around all over the place and we don't know what they are and they're not us. Please don't nuke us.
Yeah.
And let's start sharing data because we got these craft flying all over the place. Oh, and they seem to be coming from somewhere down south.
Pretty cool.
Did we ever lose the Second World War? Is that really what happened? Because as far as I can tell, the Nazis, whatever that culture was, that was the Nazi culture, has infiltrated our society, aka the neocons. And then if you read about Operation Paperclip and Werner von Braun, NASA, there's a real story to be told about whether or not we actually lost World War II. We may have physically won the kinetic war, but we lost the information and spiritual war.
Okay.
That's kind of would be an amazing topic, how you win a physical war but lose the spiritual war.
You have a, what do they call it? It's a Pyrrhic victory.
What I always thought was interesting, what my grandfather would say, I met my great-grandfather. He was born in England and he became a naturalized citizen, and then my dad is technically second-generation American. through my uncle, but he was always very pro-British, and he was always one to say that what the Germans couldn't do with their guns, they've been able to do with their checkbooks. What what they couldn't do through socialism, they've done through corporations. Like we were talking about how, was it what's the name of that company I was talking about before?
Raytheon.
How Raytheon owns Pratt and Whitney, they own Otis, all kinds of stuff. And why does Raytheon, a rocket manufacturer, own Pratt and Whitney? Why do they own an elevator company? Why do they own an escalator company? Why would you own all that stuff?
Aerospace and subterranean technology.
And that's when we got into the whole thing that you stumbled into when we first started up about the digging underground.
John F. Kennedy was about to go to the what was that building? We talked about this, Cody. It's a convention hall in Dallas. Yeah. And he was going with one of his close friends that was later fell out of a hospital window. Classic move. He committed suicide out of a hospital window while he was under psychological evaluation. And he was a high-level guy in the government. He was basically like one of John F. Kennedy's number. Like he was in the inner circle. He's like I don't know. He was like a Roger Stone to Kennedy. And I forgot his name. This is why I wanted my notes for this, but we could follow up on this later. He has a speech that he gave to a class where he said that it's a major tragedy, and it happened days after the assassination, that it's a major tragedy this happened because what John was about to announce was going to be globally significant. It would change the dynamics of global power. Mm. They had a flag from the White House flown in that had flown over the White House to this event to be presented. And I wonder if maybe there might have been a Russian ambassador there, that this would have been the end of the Cold War and we were going to go and explore the world together. So that we don't blow the whole planet up. And given his predilections, Kennedy was, kind of a humanist, kind of that classical Democrat, before they lost their minds. The idea that maybe we don't have to all kill each other and have this neocon constant warfare going on. And
what do we have? What do we have now? We have Democrats with the same mindset of John F. Kennedy running the country. If you look at it,
yeah, everyone at the high levels that we see publicly, they're all former Democrats. Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. No, are they former Democrats or are they still? But like a lot of people are saying, the Democratic Party has left them, but these guys still have those values, like John F. Kennedy, and utilizing them, right? Because I was thinking about this earlier, and I was like, people say they are anti this and that about this government and that kind of stuff, but I'm like, but which Democrat Party do you really support?
The Democrat Party's been taken over. That's the thing that's impressive.
Yeah. And then the Republican Party, they're really not supportive of the president and his stuff, right? So it's kind of like this gray Democrat Party right now. It's not really Republican. It's not really left-wing Democrat. So it's kind of an interesting concept to think about what we have present today and how it got there and the grassroots to build it up. And you guys have that quote or something like that you want to share? Did you bring that up? Whatever that you're looking for?
Me? Oh, yeah. I got lost. My ADD acted up. But
I'm trying to find it, but
here. Check this out. This is what I was talking about. The here. If you look right here, see how the they had to come down this corridor here, right? This is the limo route. They had to do a hard left, and then look at this hard. They had to do a hard right and then a hard left. This is where the building is. Look at the trees that get in the way, because there's where the shot was taken. He's
Where were they going?
They were going this way.
No, where were they ending up? Where was their destination?
They were supposed to go to a Collin. What was that? That was the banquet or something afterwards.
I'm trying to remember what the name of it was.
The thing I thought was interesting is they flew from Love Field in Dallas before this. They flew from Love Field to DFW. They're like right next to each other. They took Air Force One off, flew across and landed like the shortest presidential flight in history.
Forrestal. That's the guy's name.
Forrestal.
So let's go. Where was the other thing? But look at right here. See this picture here? He's shooting from right here, right in there, down to here. See how it's a tard? You gotta have to like lean down. My question is he's looking straight on at the route coming this way. So they came in here, and then they turn and go down here. Why didn't he take the shot straight into him? You don't have to worry about leading. You don't have to worry about follow. You go straight into a target. It's way easier. So why didn't he take the shot here? You know, he took it the harder shot through the trees, and through down into here because the target's like right at here, and he's shooting from an elevated position, and it's a hard. You're kind of like shooting off to the right and down. As a shooter, what a pain in the ass. So,
but he still did it.
May 22nd, James Forrestal, former Secretary of Defense, jumped 13 stories to his death early this morning from 16th floor of the National Naval Medical Center. Suicide had apparently been his plan from early evening. He declined his usual sleeping pill from 1:45 this morning. A book of poetry beside his bed was open to a passage from a Greek tragedian, Sophocles, telling of the comfort of death, of course. I mean, President Truman heard the news of Mr. Forrestal's death at 7 a.m. broadcast. And
is that who they named the aircraft carrier after too?
I'm sure. I mean, he was the Secretary of Defense. Yeah, no. I mean, he was famous. I mean, Forrestal. And there's a lot of background evidence. I'm not going to get into it now, but basically he, to me, looked like he was back channeling between the U.S. and the Russians. Like he was one of those back channelers, because the biggest problem that Kennedy had was how does he talk to the enemy? Like you saw this in the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was like he had to overtly use his family and his brothers to like create like back channels. And his father famously is the one who taught him how to create these networks that are non-attributable. Like you can't, like, you know, like using, because he was in the mob. So it was kind of like, I mean, these were Irish bootleggers. I know that's like used as a derogatory, but at the same time, they had some, what do you call it? Stagecraft, some tradecraft.
Tradecraft, yeah.
Yeah, they were savvy. Like they knew how to like work around and do open source communications and non-attributable communications. So, because they're like when you're the king, you're constantly being watched. Everything you say is managed. I mean, you just have to go back to what I said about Reagan being managed by Colin Powell with his speeches. Colin Powell basically says like it's all I could do to keep Reagan from talking about the UFO threat in his book, which it's like, okay, why would you say that? Is that another limited hangout to make us think there's a UFO threat? Or like, why would you even say that? The point is something's up. like I don't
Or
know
it could be
what level of.
A Freudian slip that it just kind of came out,
Yeah, but
right?
he wrote
And
it in a
if he
book.
could take it back,
It's like if it, one
maybe
thing
at
if he
that time
said
he
it in
doesn't
his
care.
speech, but he wrote it down through editors and the CIA, and everyone checked it, and everyone was like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just push that out there." It's
Yeah,
just
that makes-
the levels of weirdness and the layers of BS you have to start thinking about when you start taking these things seriously are like they're so deep. And then ultimately you get to the spiritual question of like what really is the paradigm that we're even operating in, or what are these people even operating in? And to me this is the divide, and this is where you can sense out who is who. You have the materialists and you have the ones that understand we are effectively immortal beings. And when I say immortal, I'm not saying Collin's going to live on forever. I'm saying the life force, the entity of consciousness that we all partake in, God, moves on forever. And there's certain people that have the intellect and courage, because that takes some courage to be aware of that, because you have to accept that your persona, your ego, will die one day. And that's okay. But the consciousness that drives us forward will live on. And there are some people at the highest levels of military intelligence that understand that and play at that level of gamesmanship, is what I'm suggesting. That's what I would do.
So what was that Forrestal guy's name?
James Forrestal, Secretary of Defense.
But he died in 1949.
No,
There was James.
I'm looking at the new. I literally read it out of the news, out of the New York Times article. No, I'm sorry. No, you're right. 1949. James. No, you're correct. He died in 1949. I'm sorry. I got them conflated. This was JFK's. No, this was his. No, I'm glad. No, I'm glad you said this. No, this is. Let me clarify this. This was like his mentor. There was another guy that I'm thinking of that he was going to the man. It's on the tip of my tongue. As soon as let me look it up real quick.
He did die of suicide. You got all that other stuff right. Just the year he died.
No, I got the guys confused. I'm relatively new to this, so sorry. No, that was a mistake.
When you're looking at the higher consciousness and connecting everything together, that's some really deep stuff, because when you're looking at conscious level with God and working out the practices of self, that could be with or without God, causes a lot of both good and bad. And we know that through Nazi Germany, that those guys were doing stuff that were far beyond than anyone else. They were just cooking. And yeah, for them to be able to escape and go down through Argentina, down through Antarctica and that kind of stuff, to continue to thrive and keep their ideals found, integrated, and they're utilizing their higher intellect, because some of the things that they've come up with, the world wasn't even close to. We had to pull them in order to help us out in World War II and that kind of stuff. And so, and they weren't pushed for king and country type thing. They were pushed more for the science and for the technology to advance, and they wanted to go further and further and further. That's kind of where their kind of God was almost at.
Yeah.
Their religion, and they were able to do it better than any other country, which is crazy if you think about that. They were able to do things better than any other country, and all the other countries were trying to figure this stuff out, but they were always behind. These guys were 20, 30, 50 years ahead, right? And that's impressive, right? On one side, on the other side, that's kind of fearful.
And just to add to that, you know, and you can look this up too, but there were in certain bombing runs. I mean, we still had Ford plants and IBM and American manufacturers over there in Nazi Germany in full operation. And our bombers were told to go around those key targets and to not hit them. That's like well documented. IBM, you know, there's a book written about this. Like, they're the ones that came up with the coding system for the arms of the inmates, you know? And people think it was Germany as a nation state. It's like, we haven't really had nation states for a long time. They're kind of cover for the populations within the countries to glob onto as an ideology to be maneuvered around. There's higher levels of organizations above that operate above them. I mean, you just have to look at the British Empire. All roads lead back to the city of London in the financial system. This is all open source. You can just look it up, like where all the banking systems answer to. It all goes back to London. And then that goes back to the Dutch and the Amsterdam cabal that took over that came out of Venice, that were the latent families that came out of the Roman Empire. And it's this old financialization system of collateralizing assets and re-leveraging them over and over and over again. And everyone wants to blame the Jews. And certainly there are Jewish families and sects involved in this, no doubt about that. Look at the Sabbatean Frankists, that's a real thing. But they're not even Jews. It's just people labeled themselves. It's easy to change your label of who you are. But I'm saying that this has been going on for a very long time, and the warfare that we've been told about how it happened and why is not accurate. And we're about to fall into the Fourth World War. The Third World War was the Cold War. This is going to be we're in the middle, not in the middle, we're in the beginning phases of the Fourth World War. It's already been set up. Yeah. And
it's the same. They did the same thing with all the trade embargoes and everything.
Same thing.
The Second World War against Japan. So the ironic thing is it's in the same geographical area.
We're having a reorder. The financial systems are collapsing because it's all like based on fraud to begin with, and we're the ones that end up holding the bag. And when that happens, you have revolutions in countries because they realize they were betrayed. How do you cover that up? You need a massive war. Like, warfare is basically like a restructuring of nation states. That's really what it's for. And they're trying to get us into one to start killing each other en masse. I mean, we're in the preliminary stages of this, and they're saying 2-3 million people are dead in the Russian-Ukraine conflict already.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just the opening salvo. This isn't even the main, like, I mean...
So the link is that it's all government conspiracy for money and power.
Always has been. I mean, someone tell me how that has never not been the case. Go back in medieval
Corey,
romantic history. Tell me where that hasn't been the case. Everyone knows
it wasn't the case pre-fall. After the fall of Adam and Eve.
Yeah, the beginning of consciousness. You're right.
There you go. There you go, Collin. We had an example. And we had the guy that could do it.
Yep.
But even in the Bible, and here's the link in, the government killed Jesus. I'm just saying.
It wasn't
because
just
they're
the
the only ones that
it
could.
Was the Romans.
They're the only ones that could do it.
Yeah.
And in their stupidity, they made a martyr.
Yeah, bad move. Don't make a martyr. I'm trying to find the speech that the guy that I'm talking. Anyway, this would have to be in the part 2. I don't have my notes. I was not prepared for this, so I'm sorry. This was.
I even gave you a heads up, man.
Okay, fine. That's my fault. Whatever. No, he didn't. He's lying. I had no idea we were doing JFK until like literally it came on. So.
I said last week when we ended, hey, next week is JFK.
I thought you were joking, to be honest with you. Like, I was like...
I mean, we're literally, me and you are sitting here, and I'm like, hey, next week I want to talk JFK. And you're like, cool, let's do
no,
that.
but that was like with Daniel and you and me, right? That wasn't with Corey.
Well, I know it wasn't with Corey. I mean, he wasn't fortunate enough to be there.
Corey's a motivational preacher. Like, what are you talking about? God bless you, Corey. You're a better man than I. But it's like we're going to talk about JFK, and it's like I want to talk aliens in Antarctica into this. Like, it's a nightmare. I don't know how to navigate.
Are you kidding?
It's not a nightmare. It's just.
It was for me, but I think I did okay.
I have Corey's been my friend for almost.
No,
over
I'm
10
not.
years
I'm not
now.
going after Corey. I'm saying that this isn't something to just dump on somebody and be like, okay, here you go.
Oh, you have no idea.
Luck.
You have no idea what I do. People dump things on me all the time.
That's
so
fair.
This
no,
is like,
I love you to death. You're a good man.
This is nothing.
I just meant that
You know?
it's intellectually, like, it's like to just dump this on you and you're not prepared for it is like kind of unfair.
Okay.
Because I feel like I was caught off guard. I don't.
Corey, how many times have we been say we're at Hooters, okay? And we're like, so what are your thoughts on, it's like totally off the wall. Okay, what are your thoughts on JFK? It's like, so when you hang out with this man here, you got to be on
Corey
guard
was
for
great.
swings and
I'm
blows.
saying that wasn't my point. I was not coming after you, Corey, at all.
It's all good.
I'm
Bob
just
and
saying,
weave, man. Bob and weave.
No,
Right?
I'm saying I was not prepared for this. I should have been better prepared. I need like a week to get everything sorted out to present it.
I gave you 2. My gosh.
Not for
Cody
this
calls me
one.
up. Hey, what do you think about JFK? You want to do JFK? What do you think about that? Sure, why not? What's the worst thing that could happen?
Dude, I've got
I'm
a
telling
couple.
you, man.
I got a couple of short documentaries to send you if you really want. That I got this all from, and you can source it all back. They're very interesting. So
I have an audience witness.
We will put them in the link. Yep.
Well, we're going to put them in the link, but we have 2 weeks for part 2 because next week I'm not going to be here. So
Perfect.
2 weeks, Collin. Get your I can't cuss
Stuff.
because
JFK stuff together.
My stiff together. My stuff.
2 weeks. We're coming back. We're going to do JFK. Be ready, okay?
All right.
All right.
I'll be
around.
All right. All right. I'll have a slideshow. I'll have it all ready to go.
Yeah,
Slideshow,
but make sure you
nice.
take those. Last time you did a slideshow, you had those weird pictures in there. We don't need that this time.
Hey, so here's something else. Check this out. What I like doing is I like learning. If I don't know something and I learn it, I love that. Because I don't know everything. Cody doesn't know everything. Collin doesn't know everything. Corey doesn't know everything. So when we're sharing things, even Cody's got a dad shirt on, which dad's supposed to know everything. Yet here it is. I love learning. I love learning new things. And then I have to take it in and figure out, how does this apply to me? Right? And a lot of people, they don't go that far, or if they go that far and they say, everything applies to me, then they're nuts. Completely lose their mind, right? But the great thing about it is, sharing this shared knowledge, what we have, what we saw, all that kind of stuff, it grows people, right? It grows me. It's like, I've never heard this, never heard that. Now, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to sleep on it and see where my brain takes it, right? And that's the cool thing about, all these ideas, concepts, what's happened here and there on the JFK so far, right? We shared a bunch of stuff, and now we're like, okay, what do we do about it? Where do we go, and how do we digest this?
Yeah.
That's where I'm trying to get to I'm very grateful that you said that.
Yeah. And that's part 2. We're going to be able to digest it.
And there is a way, there is an ultimate conclusion to this. Not an ultimate one, but I've hit a wall and I need help to get past that wall, but I need some help to get there because
he has to go through his
I need you guys to help me get there because this has gotten too weird for me. This has gotten over the top weird. This is high strangeness.
This is what I've been going for 10 episodes. Let's get weird.
This is high. This is high strangeness, is what I like to call it. High strangeness. Like, I can't even believe it's real. Anyway, that was awesome. Thank you, boys.
Well, cool.
That was fun.
All right, y'all. That was fun. We went down some real rabbit holes. We saw some real videos. Stand by for JFK Part 2. Y'all do your research.
Yeah,
and
do our research.
Since it's going to be next week, I'm going to be up in Raton doing the Ruger Rocky Mountain 3-gun shoot. So if you guys want to comment and give us anywhere places you want us to go in the JFK assassination, definitely hit us up and let us know. So, all right, guys.